Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with the final figure of this newest round of Earth Story releases. We've got what is said to be the woolly rhinoceros, and it's been pretty fun up until this point. Quite the quest to get through all of these mammals, but I'm really happy that we have, and I'm happy that I was able to give you guys a chance to see them ahead of time to decide if you wanted to seek them out or not. However, this figure is definitely the most questionable in my opinion overall, because it states that this is a woolly rhinoceros, but to me it looks much more like an Elasmotherium as opposed to like your standard woolly rhinoceros. Just like, it has that massive horn on the top of its head, which is more similar to the Elasmotherium as opposed to a woolly rhino, which does have a little bit of a different look to it. Unless, again, there's something that I don't know about woolly rhinoceros, because I don't read up on the species a lot. But if there's something that maybe, I don't know, maybe it is a woolly rhino and I'm not too familiar enough to really know, you guys can definitely let me know in the comment section. But in my opinion, it looks a whole lot more like an Elasmotherium as opposed to a woolly rhinoceros. But the packaging is pretty much as it has been the entire way through, with again the Earth Story logo and stuff, and a shot of the figure on the front and then on the back again. The same sort of thing going on the entire way through. So let's pop this open and check it out. So here is I'm just going to call it the Elasmotherium for the remainder of the review, the Earth Story figure. And boy, I don't know, I kind of was expecting this one to be maybe the most epic overall, and that's kind of why I saved it for last. But now actually having it out of the box, I feel like maybe it's the least likable of the group overall. There's just something that seems kind of more childish about this one as opposed to, the high quality models, or decently high quality models we've pretty much been seeing the entire way through. If we bring it in nice and close for a closer look, I think the biggest drawback for this one is the face. The face looks kind of goofy, and the paintwork there, you can see we've painted the tongue out on the inside of the mouth, looks kind of goofy as well. I don't know what it is about it. It just doesn't look all that impressive, but the detail in the face in general is kind of lacking, I would say. We have like this very bumpy skin texture on the snout, but as you move back and you get into the area of like the nostrils and even here on the lower jaw and kind of around the eye, you can just see when it comes to the fine detail, there's not a whole lot there, which is definitely a little upsetting. Overall, the face has like a very dark black or brownish tone. It's hard to tell because there's a strong dry brushing over it. Kind of looks black, but at the same time, from certain angles, it looks a little bit more like a dark brown. But the dry brushing has been hit here with a light gray, which looks okay. Again, I think it could have been a little bit better if maybe it wasn't so strong, but it still looks all right. As you move up through the horn, we can see kind of like cracks and crevices within the horn, and the horn also has that same dry brushing, though it becomes a whole lot more intense the further up into the horn you go. You can obviously see it's a lot stronger up there toward the top, starts out kind of light near the bottom. The eye is painted with a black, and that's about it. There is a nice gloss coat, though, over the eye, which is definitely a plus. And as we move back into the body, we can see all sorts of very wavy fur. I'm going to go ahead and go on record as saying I don't know if they have more than one sculptor, but if they do, the sculptor that sculpted the mammoth is definitely the same one that sculpted this Elasmotherium, because overall the fur looks pretty much exactly the same as far as the wavy look that it has. We have the ears sculpted out up here on the top of the head. We can also see a little variation of browns. As we move back, we have like a primary reddish brown, but there is a darker brown you can see popping up here and there. Basically right here I see it here behind the leg and in front of the rear leg, but that's about it. And that's kind of where, well, maybe there's a little bit of a lighter tone actually as you move down the legs, but when it comes to variation of color, there's not much to be found on this figure, and overall it kind of looks a little naked, I would say. As you move back through the body, though, I will say the detail is exceptionally vibrant. It really is some of the most vibrant detail we've seen on these figures the entire way through, and it really, just like with the mammoth, needed like a dry brushing of some sort of color, like maybe a light brown or something, just to help highlight the detail a little more and just kind of make it pop and make it look a little more realistic. We have a pretty cool pose as you move back, though. You can see it looks kind of confrontational as far as the pose, but at the same time, maybe it has its head down, it's about to eat or something, but the legs just sort of like, they look like they're kind of really steadfast, like it's trying to show off some sort of an impressive display. But then when you come up here to the head, it doesn't look like it's all that confrontational. Here, it looks kind of happy and like it's just eating. So I don't know. But as you move down, again, really wavy fur. As you lead down into the foot, the detailing becomes a whole lot more fine as you lead down into the foot. Again, the nails are sculpted, but we don't have any paintwork for the nails. That's another thing Earth Story should really think about doing in the future, is adding in paintwork for the nails. I do like the hanging fur off of the side of the stomach here, though. As you lead down, you can see some pretty hefty fur hanging off of the side of the stomach right there. And again, wavy fur the entire way through, with obviously a lot more of it up here on the top of like the shoulder area leading back from the neck. We do have that darker brown in that area as well. And as you lead back, you can see the rear leg again extended out a little bit. Decent looking foot sculpt. We do have the tail back here. And for the first time, I think the entire way through, we don't have some sort of like a alternate tone or a darker tone of color for the tip of the tail. It's almost like they somehow were trolling me without even trying to, because I just mentioned in the Dinosaurium review that they always seem to have a different tone of color for the tip of the tail, and then they don't for this one. That's kind of ridiculous. But as you can see, again, the head sculpt looks pretty much the same over here. I like the hanging fur, though, on the under part of the head, again, leading down, though, and that, I think, looks pretty decent. The sculpt is nicely done, besides the sort of childish look to the face, but the paintwork just really should have been a little bit more impressive, in my opinion. Maybe I'm just too kind of ruined by the quality of a lot of the figures that we see nowadays, and I just kind of expect more, but the paintwork just could be a little more impressive, a little more realistic. Even a wash could have really helped this figure. But as you lead over here to the opposing side, you can see the legs are in a bit of a different position. Both legs on this side are, a little bit further forward than what we see on the opposing side. We again have the hanging fur off of the stomach. The detailing of the fur does look pretty cool. Very, very wavy, very thick and impressive. The underside as well, again, looks fairly decent, but even the undersides of the feet have some detail to them. But again, no alternate tones of color, it seems. It kind of looks like maybe there's a slightly lighter shade of color down there, but I actually kind of don't think. At the same time, when you turn it, it sort of does look like it is, in fact, the same shade of color. I don't know. Either way, though, it's a decent figure, but I would say probably the most lackluster of the line overall. As far as a size for a length from the rear leg to the horn, you were looking at about 8¼ inches or 21 centimeters, and the highest point would probably be the horn at about 3 inches or 7½ centimeters. It almost matches up to the top of the shoulders as well. But for a size comparison, there, of course, is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day human being next to our figure from Earth Story, again, whether it be a woolly rhino or an Elasmotherium, but you can see it's not all that large and is actually one of the first figures in the line to really feel like it is a bit smaller than the others. Most of them seem similar in size, just obviously different in proportions, but this time I feel like the figure does seem a bit smaller overall. And for an example of that, here is the Dinosaurium from Earth Story as well, which you can see is a bit larger. And to continue to show you that, we also have the Paraceratherium, which you can see as well is a bit larger. And then, of course, the woolly mammoth as well, which you can definitely see, again, the similarities in the sculpting of the fur, but also see, again, that the mammoth is definitely quite a bit larger. Now, if my suspicion is correct when it comes to this being an Elasmotherium, you can see, again, when it comes to the best version of an Elasmotherium that I have, we have the well, actually, I wouldn't say the best, but as far as the style figure, the best one that I have, I would say, is the TNG version. And you can see, again, that they are kind of similar in size, but you can also see a way higher quality look here on the TNG version. But now, actually, looking at the two, they kind of look a little bit different, actually, so I don't really know. Again, maybe they were going for a woolly rhino look. Maybe I'm just not familiar enough with the species. You guys are definitely going to have to help me out with this one, because I'm very confused overall as far as this figure goes. And to kind of show you why I'm a bit more confused than normal, we have a comparison here with the Bullyland woolly rhino. Now you can see a very different look when it comes to the woolly rhino compared to what we have with this figure from Earth Story. And you can also see, in case you have this, a pretty good idea of the size. But again, very different when it comes to the overall visual of the head. So kind of a little confused as far as this one goes. But again, if you happen to have this Bullyland figure, this will help to give you an idea of the size. And then, just like we did the entire way through, running through a few comparisons with the same prehistoric mammals we've been using, we have the Collectae Meropus here, as well as the Eofauna steppe mammoth, and I think at this point most of these figures are going to be larger. We've also got the Collectae Paraceratherium, again the older version of that species, as well as the Eofauna Dinotherium, which you can see again is a lot larger. And then one final comparison here showing off the entire Earth Story lineup, as you can see, from beginning to end of our reviews, although they are definitely not set up to match up to that idea that I just stated. Again, these are not the way I reviewed them, but whatever. But from the very first figure all the way to the very last figure, we have them here next to each other. And you can see again that they do look really cool next to each other. Clearly, again, not following any sort of scale whatsoever, as far as matching up anyway. But still pretty cool to see all of these releases now here before me and now entering my collection. So this is again another pretty cool figure from Earth Story, but I would say it's probably my least favorite, which is shocking because when it comes to species like this, they're normally really high up on my list of favorites, but this one just kind of has a little bit of a lower quality look compared to the others, and specifically it's in the face. I think that it just kind of falls flat. Also, the paintwork doesn't seem nearly as impressive as some of the others, which none of them have had amazing, jaw-dropping paint, but they've at least been fairly decent, whereas this one doesn't really have a whole lot going on. It's severely lacking when it comes to variation of color, and again, really looks flat considering there's just a wash or a dry brushing that was really needed on this to make the detail pop, and again, just add a little more depth to the paint apps of the figure. And it definitely has the detail for it, but unfortunately, they didn't do that. There is a dry brushing on the face, but it's kind of an ugly grayish dry brushing that doesn't look all that impressive or realistic, so a little bit of a downside as far as the paintwork goes for this one. The tones of color are fairly natural as a whole besides the dry brushing, which even the dry brushing is okay, it's just too strong as far as the way it's applied, but the it just needed a little more to it to make it look really good. That said, the sculpt is very highly detailed for the most part, at least when it comes to the fur. The face looks kind of goofy and a little bit lacking in detail, but the fur detail is quite nice and quite impressive. I'm still, again, a little confused as far as what species they were aiming to create here, so you, again, will have to let me know in the comment section, because I'm sure some of you guys are a little more familiar with this species than I am. I love prehistoric mammals, but I'm definitely not the most knowledgeable person on them, so, again, a little help from you guys in the comment section will definitely be appreciated when it comes to what they were aiming for. I'm thinking Elasmotherium, but regardless, it's an okay figure, but in my opinion, the least likable of the group. But if you are interested, again, my buddy Dino Mike Mac snagged this from the Hong Kong Toy Fair for me, so it should be releasing at some point very soon. Unfortunately, it has not quite yet. Once it does, I'll definitely add the link in the description. If you guys happen to spot them in the meantime, definitely let me know, because then I'll grab the links from you guys and add them in the description for everybody else. But either way, it's an okay figure, kind of worth picking up just because it is a prehistoric mammal, but it's definitely not the greatest of the group. One way or another, though, if you can grab it, definitely do so, and of course, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.